My name is Dave, and rather than physically describe myself, I thought I would detail what I believe in. That way, you should get an idea of what sort of guy I am. Despite what I've just done, I assure you I'm not an evil man. An evil man would have enjoyed what I just did. I didn't. It was just something my sensibilities demanded. My driving belief is in respect. Respecting yourself and others is critical. I will respect you until you do something to lose it, at which point I will just walk away. I will never darken your doorway again. I think everyone has a duty to be as good as they can possibly be. Sure, some will achieve more than others, but as long as you try your best, I will respect you. One word of caution. Disrespect me, and you better duck next time. What I value most is loyalty and trust. I will never lie or be deceitful to those that have my respect. I am loyal to a fault, again, to those that deserve it. Note the careful wording. If you lose my trust, then loyalty and respect are also off the table. I have a strong belief in justice. Good things should happen to good people, and bad things to bad people. I'm also old-fashioned. If you wrong me, then you won't have to worry about writs in court, but you better be very careful walking down any dark alleys. If I shake hands on a deal, and it doesn't happen, then check the death notices. My name will be there. I believe I am methodical, romantic, and loving. I also have a strong belief in equality of the sexes, not the lip service many people have, but an innate conviction that whatever traits you happen to possess, it won't make a difference in what I expect, or how I will treat you. That may explain why I just did what I did. I said I was methodical. I'll prove it to you by starting at the beginning. My suggestion that my wife of 5 years sever contact with her friend Jenny fell on deaf ears. Jenny moved down the street the previous year. Her husband, Bill, is a shift worker that I've only met a couple of times. Jenny makes my palms itch. I don't know what it is about her, but I just have a real instinctive bad feeling about her. But I respect that it's my wife Lorna's decision. She tends not to have many friends, but is fiercely loyal to the ones she does have. Jenny doesn't like me, and it's obvious that she's trying to influence Lorna. More than once, when I've walked into the room, their conversation has stopped abruptly. Oh yes, I started having a real bad feeling about their friendship. The signs that my marriage was in strife began accumulating. Several small things that by themselves meant nothing started to niggle. Not being able to contact Lorna sometimes on her days off and evasive answers when I asked about it later was one of them. Her recent trouble in making eye contact with me was another. I firmly believe the old saying that the eyes are the windows of the soul, and added my own ending, that sunglasses are the blinds. The biggest clue, of course, was our intimacy reducing from at least twice a week down to nothing overnight, with nothing at all in the previous 4 weeks. Doubly strange was that on more than one occasion when I approached her for some affection, she appeared to go along with it for a while, then changed her mind. It was like shutters came down over her eyes, and she turned off. I asked many times what the problem was, but she denied we even had one. Exasperated, last week I suggested we needed to think about counseling. Lorna just turned away and started crying. Once she'd finished, she looked like she really wanted to say something, but then the shutters came down again. The most confusing aspect of her behavior was its total inconsistency with a woman trying to get pregnant with her first child. Unless a bad thought entered my head, what if she'd given up on me being the primary partner and was considering others? It would explain why she wasn't as emotionally connected as I was and why she was avoiding me. But that doesn't make sense. We'd only been trying for 2 months before she cut me off. Well, if she wasn't going to admit to her infidelity, then I was going to have to catch her the old-fashioned way. Lorna controlled the finances in our family, as she had the most time. Not wanting big, unexplainable purchases to show up on our statements, I had to be careful and keep any surveillance cheap, and that's what I did. I paid cash for 2 tiny voice recorders that relayed to a base station. A good start. I thought if they didn't pick up anything, I could always upgrade and do the old GPS monitor thing later. I set one of the recorders up in the kitchen to cover that room and the lounge. The second I placed in our bedroom. The receiver I hid in the ceiling space. Lorna never went there. Too many spiders. The only relevant conversation the recorders picked up about a week later confused the hell out of me. At the same time, it offered me some relief. It didn't sound like Lorna was cheating on me, but I still had no clue what she was up to. The recorded conversation happened in the kitchen on one of Lorna's days off. Well, Lorna, what did you think of that? I don't know, Jenny. It was as hot as hell, but are you sure Bill enjoys it? He certainly didn't look like it. I told you before, he doesn't particularly enjoy what I do at the time, but afterwards, he knows he's going to have at least a week of amazing moments. The only time I've seen him really upset was when I misjudged the timing, and my period started that night. Bill missed out and sulked for a whole week. I still don't know, Jenny. I can't see how you could possibly respect Bill if he puts up with all that. Oh God, today was tame, girl. You should see what we normally get up to. I didn't want to humiliate Bill that much today, as it was only the second time you were there as a spectator. You would not believe the buzz I get when I go up to Bill, tied in his chair with his personal device in its cage, and give him his choice for the day. What choice? Well, it's different every time. I'll ask Bill if we can do something different next time you come over. I'd better go. Bill's still tied up. The bedroom recorder cut, and slightly after that, a distinctive buzzing noise and 2 instances of intense moments demonstrated that whatever happened had turned Lorna on immensely, and her device received a workout. It was obvious that Lorna had witnessed something with Jenny and Bill that turned her on, but I couldn't understand all of it. The only thing that fit all the conversation was, no, surely no one would put up with that. Yeah, naive or what? I also didn't understand where all this was heading. I decided to wait and see. I only had to wait until the following week for the next episode. Again, it was during my wife's day off. And again the action was in the kitchen. Yeah, well, I asked Bill if I could do the whole second-hand or straight from the source thing again, but he put his foot down. He said not with you there. It's only because he thinks he's going to get a chance with you that he even agreed to you being there in the first place. Well, that's not going to happen. For goodness sake, girl, don't tell him that. If you burst that bubble, then your viewing days are over. Okay, how was last week with Bill? Fantastic, as always. After I returned home from here, I untied him, and he attended to me as usual, and then we were together from then till supper time. I told you the intimacy is great, but the week after with Bill is almost as good. It's like honeymoon intimacy all over again. Again, there was a pause in the conversation, and the sound of a kettle boiling on the recording. So, how are things with Dave going? The poor guy must have something chronic. It's been 6 weeks now, and I can tell you it's getting harder and harder to turn him down. If it wasn't for Mother's little helper, I would have exploded by now. You know, devices though they feel good at the time but leave you feeling kind of unsatisfied. Yeah, I know what you mean. But hang in there. How about you tell him you were cutting him off to build up his strength? That might buy you some time. Another few weeks, and Dave will say yes to anything. How about next week you have a go and pretend that Bill is Dave? It won't be nearly as good, but at least you'll get your satisfaction, and it will buy you the time you need. No way, Jen. I will never ever betray Dave. I love him too much to disrespect him like that. Then there's the whole prenup thing I told you about. If he ever found out I betrayed him, I'd be out in a flash. I'm 39, Jenny. If I don't have kids now, I never will. I paused the recording. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Lorna. I particularly like the comment about respect, although it seems you may have different ideas than me about disrespect. Yes, you are very wise to remember the prenup. The betraying party leaves with all. I could now see where this was likely heading and mentally vowed to schedule some time for myself to decide how far along I'd allow it to go. I returned to the recording. I still don't know as eager as Dave must be. I still just can't see him going along with all this. I'm thinking of backing out. I can't risk losing him, not just for a bit of extramarital issues. It's hard enough as it is looking in his eyes and seeing doubts in them. It's just not right. Have you listened to a word I've said, girl? It's not just a bit of extramarital issues. It's the massive high you get from the feeling of control. Having him sit there helpless and eager, knowing he's going to do absolutely anything you want him to do for as long as you want, just to get to keep you. There's nothing like seeing your wife with another man to trigger the competitive instinct in the average man. Deep down, all men just want to be dominated. Bill did it. My ex did it. Sure, they all protest for a while for the sake of appearance, but once their fragile little pride is satisfied, they run to the chair every time. No, Jenny, I've decided I don't want to risk my future happiness. It's not worth it. Dave brought up counseling again this week. What risk, Lorna? There is no risk. Let him stew for a few more weeks to maximize your chances. Then hit him with it. You're not betraying him, so he has no reason to leave, and the prenup isn't triggered. What's the worst that can happen? He says no, and you've lost nothing. No way will he want a divorce where he loses the house, half the money, and has to pay you alimony. So no risk in the possibility of fulfilling moments for as long as you want it. I tell you, girlfriend, you just can't lose. Okay, Jenny, I'll think about it. Well, make up your mind soon, or your watching your days are over. The device got another update that afternoon. I was sick of the situation. Time to put the pressure on. I still had no idea how I was going to react when their little charade played out, as I was increasingly sure it would be. Jenny was offering Lorna the possibility of an experience that no one else could compete with. I got to say, my initial reaction was that the idea was totally alien to my sensibilities, but then again, I'd never given it any thought before. You never know, watching Lorna engage with someone else in front of me might be fun. Time to force a decision. When Lorna came to bed, I made my desire known, but got the expected knockback. Lorna, have you ever heard of conjugal rights? No. What are they? That is the right of a husband to have intimacy with his wife. Well, I'm claiming anti-conjugal rights. The right of a wife to say no. I didn't say anything for a while, choosing my words carefully. Well, if you keep refusing me and won't tell me why and refuse to consider counseling, then will you give me your blessing to fulfill my needs outside the marriage? There was what I can only describe as an explosion on the other side of the bed. What? No bloody way. No way are you going to get any outside of this house. I should be able to provide you with all you need. Lorna stopped abruptly as the fundamental stupidity of her own statement struck. A look of pain, anger, and confusion interchanged across her face. She jumped out of bed and disappeared out the door. I have to talk to Jenny. I left her alone to go into the living area and could hear mumbling from the kitchen area. She tiptoed back into the bedroom half an hour later, assuming I was asleep. She gently eased in beside me. I gave her 5 minutes to settle down. Lorna, I don't know what Jenny is filling your head with, but can't you see how destructive it is? She's my friend. Well, Lorna, I sincerely recommend unfriending her before she destroys any more of our marriage. I don't know exactly what she is filling your head with, but I can see it isn't now or ever will be good. The next morning, I stayed in bed until Lorna left for work. Once I heard the front door close, I got the ladder and went into the ceiling space. The kitchen recorder had picked up the late-night phone call, or one side of it anyway. It started with Lorna explaining the conversation she just had with me. She sounded desperate, and I was sure she was going to pull out to say I was disappointed at the outcome would be an understatement. After Lorna's tearful goodbye, there was silence. Jen, are you sure about what you said the other day? Are all men like Bill? And if you push them hard enough, they'll enjoy being subservient. Silence. Well, as you said, I really have nothing to lose, and even watching you and Bill makes me incredibly eager. Yes, I'll do it, but I can't keep this up for much longer. Can we move the timetable up a bit? Silence. Right, I'll come over tomorrow night, and we'll talk tactics. It was a very quiet Smith household. The next day after dinner, Lorna told me she was going to Jenny's. Are you going to break off with her like I suggested? No, Dave. I grabbed her and forced eye contact. Please, Lorna, without another word. She broke away from me and left. I snuck over to Jenny's house, thinking about what a powerful driver desire was. As it was dark, I circumnavigated the house but couldn't find a vantage point where I could either see or hear what was said inside. I would be flying blind for the next stage of the drama. I was fast asleep when my loving wife returned the next day. I again stayed in bed until Lorna left. This time, I went to Jenny's house. I figured that because Lorna had raised Jenny's name in the context of our marriage problem, I wouldn't be tipping my hand with this social call. She opened the door still in her dressing gown. She wanted to get dressed, but I explained that my message wouldn't take that long. I never made it off the porch. Jenny, I know you and Lorna are up to no good. I'll even guess that you were trying to encourage her into something she doesn't really want to do. I would also hazard a guess that you think there is no risk to you. I realize you don't know me, but I should tell you that I don't forgive and forget easily. I harbor grudges. For your own safety, can I suggest you turn your obviously powerful persuasive skills towards talking her out of whatever it is rather than into it? At that point, the door was slammed in my face. After another quiet dinner, Lorna again went to Jenny's house. When I followed, this time I noticed the kitchen light was on, and the window was ajar. I'd missed the start of the conversation, obviously an explanation of my visit this morning. I was just in time to hear. No, this is good news, Lorna. I reckon this proves he thinks I'm trying to get you to betray him. That means when you hit him with your speech, he'll be off balance. And what's more, he'll be so relieved that you aren't going to betray him that he'll jump at our suggestion. At that point, clumsy Lorna knocked over a small pot plant, and to prevent having to answer some embarrassing questions, did a runner again. I was asleep when Lorna came home the next night. I got home to wonderful culinary smells. Lorna had gone all out on taste and presentation. Here we go, I thought to myself. She kept up with a nervous demeanor all night. The few times she made eye contact, all I could see was nervousness. I waited for her to get it off her chest. Bedtime came with no confrontation, just to apply a little pressure. I snuggled into her and squeezed her gently. She actually responded for a good half-minute before shutting me down. I'd piped up with the obligatory, "Have I done something wrong, dear? Tell me. I really think we should consider counseling again." Only the expected angry responses in the morning. I decided to start fighting dirty. I retrieved her personal device from the bathroom drawer and removed the spring from the battery compartment. 2 more evenings of the same, and the game was getting boring. When I returned from golf, Jenny was there but beat a hasty retreat. It was Saturday night, and using the excuse of getting up early for church, I retired to bed by 9:30 p.m. Lorna followed me. I thought she might be more open with me in the darkness, so I turned the light straight off. Once she was settled, I asked, "Okay, Lorna, what's on your mind?" She was silent, so I continued, "Okay, well, I'm guessing you've got something on your mind that you can't quite bring yourself to tell me. You've cut me off from intimacy for the best part of 2 months, so I'm guessing it is related to that. Lorna, are you betraying me, and are you working up the courage to confess?" "No, Dave. How could you possibly think that? You know I love you and would never do anything like that." She erupted, "Then please tell me what it is before I just leave, or even worse, given the next time some woman propositions me." This got her interested. "What woman propositions you when all the time at work? I'm well off, fit, and with all due modesty, not bad looking. I doubt a week goes by without some girl trying to approach me." "Okay, Dave, just give me a minute, and I'll tell you what's on my mind." It was more like 5 minutes. "Like I said, Dave, I have never betrayed you, or would never want to, but there is something that I would like to try." More uncomfortable silence. "I know you don't like her, but Jenny has been telling me what she and Bill get up to. You know, in private, and it sounds a lot more exciting than what we do. Hang on, you've never complained about what we have done so far for the last 8 years. Yes, I know, Dave. You're a wonderful and considerate partner, and I was totally satisfied with what we had. Then Jenny described what she does and described it as being at least 10 times better than what we do. I'd just like to ask you if we can give it a go, not forever, just once or twice before we settle down to being responsible parents. Are you sure it's as good as Jenny describes, or is she exaggerating? No, when I heard her describe it, it was obvious by her excitement that she really loves it. I decided to let her little hint at the start of that response apparently go over my head. So, dear Jenny, I have to ask, what do you and Jenny have in mind for me? More uncomfortable silence. Well, it's nothing too bad, Dave. Jenny has interactions with other men in front of Bill. Lorna blurted, it's not love, it's just unemotional intimacy. It's not betraying, as Bill is right there when it happens. So you want a threesome. Is that it? No, Dave, you wouldn't get to make love to me. Only the other person would. Jenny says it's called sharing. It's like you're giving me a gift to another man and giving me the gift of another man. I enjoy my gift while you watch. Then, after the person leaves, you reclaim me by making love to me. Jenny says that afterward is the best part. For every partner she has, she engages completely with Bill for at least a week. Come on, Dave, we haven't done that since our honeymoon. Jenny says if you thought you would be uncomfortable watching me, then the first few times you could go out for the night while I stayed here. Jenny says it's important that I do it in our bed. She says it's like you're proving your love for me by letting another male into your territory. Jenny thinks you should stay, though. She thinks by staying, you will see that it's just intimacy. But if you leave, you will worry about whether the person was better than you or worry that I may fall in love with them. After that monologue, Lorna lapsed into silence. Don't worry, Lorna, if we do this, and it's a big if, you understand I will be there. One question, Lorna. You've explained how I show my love for you by giving you as a gift. How and when do you show your love for me? Every time, silly. Every time I come back to you. I'm showing you that you are my main person, my one and only love. Love by second-hand experiences, huh? Sorry, Dave, I don't understand what you mean. Don't worry about it, dear. I've got to say, my first impression isn't good. If we're obviously so incompatible, and I don't satisfy you enough, why don't we just try an open marriage or bringing another person to share, and we can both enjoy them? No, Dave. The thought of you with another person makes me want to be sick. It's just not natural. It's not going to happen. Okay, we bring in another person, but I promise not to engage with them. I'll just watch you too. Yuck, Dave. I tried that once in college, and that was enough for a lifetime. Have you thought of all the possible ramifications of this, Lorna? There's me losing respect for you, you losing respect for me, or me feeling inadequate when I see you with a better partner than me or one with more confidence. No one could be a better partner than you, Dave. And anyway, Jenny went through all the possible outcomes and reckoned we have nothing to lose. Screw Jenny, Lorna. Have you thought of all the possible ramifications? Yes, Dave, I have, and I really want to try it. Can we at this point, Lorna? She grabbed my personal device through my silk boxers, and on autopilot, it went the rest of the way. See, little Percy here obviously wants to go along with my program. Little Percy hasn't seen any action for almost 2 months. Little Percy has no conscience, and at the moment, little Percy would happily engage in activities that are inappropriate. Please, Dave, won't you think about it just a little bit? Okay, Lorna, there's no harm in thinking about it, I suppose. Now, can we make love? No, Dave. I don't think so. Why the hell not? Just look at it as an incentive to think quicker. You do realize that is emotional blackmail, don't you, dear? Well, I don't agree. I just think we should get this out of my system quickly and get on with building our future. Dave's new golden rule. Whoever has the gold makes the rules for gold here. When I went to Lorna's brand new device, I noticed an addition to the collection. A cage. Shame on you, Lorna. You forgot to mention that part. Well, I lasted another 11 days. I'm only human. It was a Wednesday night, and we were in bed again. Okay, Lorna, you win. We'll do it your way, but don't blame me if things go badly. I urge you again to consider all the possible consequences. Really? Thanks, Dave. I'm sure it'll be a wonderful experience for both of us. Can we do the first one Friday? Sure, dear, on one condition. You do your part and help me into the mattress right now without any preamble. Lorna ripped off my boxers and hers and got on top of me after a couple of attempts. To my disgust and disappointment, she stopped. There are a couple of things I forgot to mention last time. Jenny says that while you're watching me engage, it's a better experience for both of us if you're, like, tied to a chair. She says it makes the other person feel more comfortable, knowing you won't interfere if you change your mind, and will give me a feeling of power and control. I stared at Lorna incredulously, but she had more. Jenny also says that it's really good if, while we're doing it, the other person, and I call you names and stuff, like playful teasing and things like that. Frankly, I'm not sure why, but Jenny says that stuff really pushes her over the edge. I'm sure you want these to be perfect experiences for me, Dave, so what do you say? Lorna resumed her movements. I can't remember when I felt this unsettled. It was with extreme self-control that I grabbed her hips and stopped her. Lorna, can we ease into this, please? I really don't want to relinquish all my control for our first experience. I don't think I can accept being tied to a chair, although I'm happy to sit in one and pretend I'll even put my hands behind my back and make it look like they're tied if you like. That will leave my hands free to use a video camera some of the time. What video camera, Dave? Well, you've said we'll only be doing this for a short time, and one of us may not like it, and it may only happen once. So I thought I might take some video so we can relive the experience whenever we like. Okay, I'll ask Jenny if that's all right. No, Lorna, don't ask Jenny anything. It's time you made your own decisions. Take responsibility for your own actions. Okay, Dave, your call. We won't tie you up, and it would be great to have a video record of the first time you proved your love for me this way. Another thing, Lorna, I'm not really happy with your idea of the negative comments. I think I will be uncomfortable enough with either of you acknowledging that I'm in the room. Can you pretend I'm not there? Just talk amongst yourselves. Call me names if you like, but as if I'm not there. You know, just between yourselves. If I thought you and the other person were really talking to me, it would be really humiliating. Lorna, I doubt if I could really feel more humiliated if you offered your partner your personal attributes. No, Dave. No one has ever been there. By this stage, even my strength was hard pushed to stop. Lorna resumed her movements. I released the restraint. I'm not particularly proud of my stamina that first time, but there were extenuating circumstances. 2 months of extenuating patience in my defense. Lorna still engaged before me. Device sabotage. The second and third ones were better to brag about. Hell, I was tired. The next day, the following night when I returned home, we had a visitor, Jenny. She couldn't have looked prouder if she just had triplets. Well done, Dave. You won't regret this. It's the start of a new life for you guys. I pretended not to see the sharp look that Lorna gave her. She had sold it to me on being a very short-term thing. So, Jenny, where do we go from here? Well, Dave, what I normally do is go across town, you know, somewhere they won't recognize me. I go up to random guys and explain what I want them to do. If they agree, I take them into the bathrooms and audition them. You know, check out their attributes. Give them half a task, maybe a bit more. If that doesn't work, you know, check out their qualities before you decide. I wouldn't want to go to all that trouble just to take home someone you're not interested in. You want the whole event to be worthwhile. Once you've got them hooked, I either take them home or tell them to come over the next day. No, Jenny, I can't possibly agree to that. If Lorna did that, engaged with another person's qualities, I would consider that betrayal. Why don't you just take it easy and bring home the first person that says yes? Okay, Dave, you're in charge for the moment, so we'll do it your way. Good night. When she was gone, Lorna obviously had things still on her mind. What is it, Lorna? Well, Jenny didn't want to ask, but she wanted to know if it was okay if she came over and watched. No, Lorna, that wouldn't be okay. It's humiliating enough having me sit there while you engage with some stranger. And off at me. I really don't think I want a witness there at the same time. Sorry, Dave. I know she's done a lot of work for this, but I just couldn't stand it. You can show her the video later if you like. Now, how about we go upstairs and get you some practice in? Lorna agreed, and we headed upstairs. As we were undressing, I remembered the question I'd thought of on the way home. Honey, are you going to buy more protection, or for me? Jenny says we can't use protection. What the heck, Dave? You went off the pill 4 months ago. Yes, but my fertile time isn't for another 2 weeks yet. Why does Jenny say you can't use protection? Well, she says it's more enjoyable for me if you get to see me engage without it. She says that strong partners should engage as soon as possible and as many times afterward as they can so their presence can be felt. At first, I was worried about diseases, but the more I thought about it, well, it's such an exciting thought. I can get tested every now and then if it worries you. No, there are some nasty diseases around at the moment. We shouldn't risk it. Okay, now how about that lovin'? We came up here for it. I'm not in the mood anymore. All right. I give in. No protection. Thanks, honey. Talking about protection, do you mind wearing one tonight or being cautious? I want to be fresh for tomorrow. Just forget it. All right, good night, Lorna. Lorna actually took the Friday off work. She was so excited that by the time I got home, the house was spotless, and the bedroom was prepared with extra pillows, lights turned down, bedside lamp turned into a spotlight. The works. Lorna was literally hopping from one foot to the other in excitement. She was dressed to impress. By the time Jenny arrived to take her out on the hunt, I reminded them that, allowing for an hour's travel time, I expected them back in 90 minutes. They didn't disappoint too much as 96 minutes later, Lorna walked in the door with her partner of choice. I hadn't been idle in that time. The anticipation made the time go extremely slowly to the point where I actually checked the clock. It hadn't stopped. There was no sign of Jenny. I was introduced to Jeremy, a good-looking guy, if a bit nervous, about 10 years younger than Lorna. I had a guess he relaxed a bit when I explained that I was totally okay with the situation and was looking forward to Lorna fulfilling her fantasy. He nodded while I explained the rules. I assured him I would be no threat, even though I was only pretending to be tied to the chair. I explained that Lorna thought the whole experience would be enhanced if both she and he provided encouraging comments. I think he understood where I was coming from when I requested that they do so as if I wasn't actually present. He was happy to say yes. When I turned the video camera on and asked for his permission to film him, he surprised me a bit when he asked if it was okay if he got a copy of the recording. Throughout all this, Lorna was hopping from one foot to the other, grinding her shapely thighs together. I got a heart racing imagining her attire with everything in place. Complete preliminaries. I took my leave and went up to the bedroom and sat in my carefully positioned chair. I still didn't officially know about the cage, so I didn't bother with it. I did remove my clothing as I knew that's what Lorna wanted and didn't want to interrupt the flow by having her ask me to do it. The chair was next to the door with a good view of the bed. After turning the camera on and placing it on the arm of the chair, I thrust my arms behind myself and waited with barely suppressed excitement. All my dreams of the last fortnight were hopefully going to be fulfilled. I didn't have long to wait. Barely a minute later, Jeremy and Lorna entered, literally removing each other's clothes. Once his clothing came off, I noted with relief that it appeared to be about 2 inches shorter than mine and much slimmer. Lorna couldn't mask the look of disappointment on her face when she saw it. Once alone, he didn't hesitate, guiding her gently to her knees. He must have been an experienced person at this, though, as after a few moments, he reached down and placed one hand over hers and one on the back of her head. With a flick of his hand, he removed hers from his device, and using his other hand to prevent her head from moving, he then pushed her onto her back on the bed and engaged fully. The look of disappointment returned to Lorna's face when she realized he was moving directly into the main event without any preparation for her. She did so willingly, enjoying the experience. Her partner wasted no time engaging fully, and within what seemed like 2 minutes, he reached his peak. That was plenty of time for some of the expected and much anticipated negative comments. "Come on, baby. Reach places my husband has never been. What does it feel like to be with someone else for a change? Oh, baby, make love to me. My husband just doesn't do it for me anymore." Sadly, that was all there was time for. With a loud series of sounds, Jeremy concluded the interaction. He immediately rolled off her, and she managed to recover magnificently from her obvious disappointment. During this brief performance, I noticed her glancing frequently in my direction more than once. She had focused on the camera sitting on the arm of my chair, pointed in her direction. The red flashing light on the front couldn't have escaped her notice. I wondered vaguely if her acting performance was due to me or the camera, something I didn't recognize. What was obvious, though, was that this was the payoff for her. If I didn't know before, I did now. This was all about humiliating me. With a voice thick with desire, she almost groaned. "You can thank my husband for this. I would never have thought of it if he hadn't put the idea in my head the other day. Come on, lover. Reach all the places where my husband has never been." With a young person's impatience, good old Jeremy lined up Lorna's intention, and with one mighty thrust of his revived device, engaged fully. All thoughts of acting forgotten. Lorna screamed in pain, obviously misinterpreting this as pleasure or just not caring in his eagerness. Her partner immediately began engaging again. Lorna desperately tried to reach back and push him away, but the combination of his strength and her arm's lack of power at this awkward angle made it an equal contest. After less than half a minute, she gave in and subjected herself to his overwhelming treatment. Later review of the video footage showed her turning towards me with pleading eyes or the place where I had been. I was gone. "I just couldn't watch this. Please help me, Dave. It hurts." I was standing outside the bedroom door, trying to shut out her pain and wishing it was all over. Every instinct I possessed said I should be protecting my mate. The only way I got through the torment was telling myself she hadn't been my mate for weeks. I judged what I thought was the perfect moment by the sounds of it. Jeremy was heading for a second engagement. I dressed again, while out of the room in my work suit, rather than the casuals I'd previously worn, mentally following my script. I rushed back into the room and sped to her side of the bed just as good old Jeremy was engaging for the second time. With my best Russell Crowe impersonation, I yelled, "Lorna, what the hell is this? Who is this? Hey, get out of my house." What the video later confirmed was a comedy of errors followed my words. Jeremy's facial expression rapidly changed from one of bliss through confusion to fear. He pulled out of my wife and leaped off the bed, grabbing his clothes. He almost broke the sound barrier leaving the room. Lorna's temporary look of relief also changed variously and stopped at confusion, torn between the need to be in two places at once. I followed Jeremy before I left. I snarled at Lorna, "Just stay here, you betraying partner." By the time I caught him, he was downstairs, rapidly dressing. The look of fear was still plainly evident. I calmly watched him finish dressing, and then casually walked over to him and put one hand around his throat, pushing him back until he was against the wall. I waited until he confirmed to himself that he could still breathe. He looked up at me, the fear gone, replaced by terror. Holding him pinned with one hand, I removed and opened his wallet with the other before deliberately reading his name and address out loud. Once I was convinced I had his undivided attention, I hissed, "Let that be a lesson to you, son. Never ever mess around with married women. I owe you a beating, but I feel generous. At some point, Lorna may approach you to testify in court. Here is what your story will be. You picked her up at a bar. You followed her back here. You were engaging with her when her husband came home unexpectedly and threw you out. Now, repeat that back to me." It took him only 3 attempts to get it right. "Okay, I'm not a cruel man. Your sentence is hereby suspended for 7 years. Say anything else in that time, and I can promise you a beating you will feel for 14 years. I released him and was surprised when he didn't immediately bolt. I took his hand and shook it. "Nice doing business with you, Jeremy." The look of confusion on his face was comical as he again produced a sonic boom hitting the front door. Shortly thereafter, I heard tires screeching down the road. I casually returned up the stairs to the bedroom. Lorna hadn't moved a muscle, remaining on the bed. In respect for our 8-year relationship, I thought I owed her an explanation for the record. "Dear, do you realize that not once in the last 2 days did you ever ask for my opinion on your little scheme? If you had, I hope I would have been honest enough to tell you that I found the mere thought of it sick and abhorrent. I know Jenny told you that this idea was so great because you would get to humiliate me. When you look back on this, well, you've really got to ask yourself which one of us has been humiliated." Lorna. I watched as her expression changed to stunned as my words sank in. Tears formed in her eyes. I said nothing for several minutes while she processed all that had happened. Finally, her face settled on a look of confusion again. "What's this all been about, Dave?" "Well, dear heart, once I realized our marriage was beyond redemption, I pretended to acquiesce to your little scheme to share me. Taking into account all that you've done, I decided you deserve to take nothing away from our marriage. I was left with a problem. How to make it look like you'd broken your marriage vows, and hence trigger the infidelity clause in our prenup. It took me 3 days to decide. I really didn't have to do anything. All I had to do was to go along with your plan, and with the help of my trusty camera there." I nodded towards the camera still resting on the arm of the chair. "Wait until you hoisted yourself on your own petard. I planted the idea of you doing it from behind with him, hoping it would take root to make the video as bad as I could. The additional engagement was an unexpected bonus. I was going to take you up on your offer of not being here tonight, but I decided to witness it by watching you try to destroy me with such gusto. I'm pretty sure I've hardened my heart to leave you with nothing, and with no chance of me changing my mind. You know what a softy I can be." I watched as Lorna's eyes flicked back and forth from me to the camera. She suddenly knew what it represented. Still, I was taken off guard when she lunged for it, grabbing it by the strap and bolting for the bathroom shortly thereafter. I heard the toilet flush. I had no doubt the innocent SIM card was heading for the sewage plant. I patted my pocket, confirming I still had the SIM I had removed earlier, the one with the device's permission to be filmed on it. When the bathroom door opened again, I couldn't see the expression on Lorna's face. I was too busy removing the hidden camera from its place of concealment on the bookshelf. A lot of thought had gone into the placement of this camera. There was only one place in the whole room that showed the entire bed, but not the chair or the door. I thought back over very recent history. Had the performers ever directly addressed the occupant of the humiliation chair? Possibly twice. 2 portions of the soundtrack would be corrupted. I predicted I was already mentally deciding at what point the batteries had gone flat. I hoped no one would ever probe to the point that they would discover it was plugged into the mains. Lorna, watching me retrieve the second camera, finally collapsed in utter defeat. I felt the need to justify myself. "For the record, dear, I sincerely believe I never treated you with anything but the utmost respect and affection until you started to manipulate me under Jenny's influence. I would have been happy to foster our children and live happily ever after with you. I don't know exactly when you went off the rails, but you did. That's for sure a tip for your next marriage. If you're going to plot with a friend, don't do it where you can be overheard by a listening device. At this point, I picked up the envelope from the same shelf that the camera had been on and handed it to Lorna. She absent-mindedly lifted the flap and pulled out the divorce paperwork. After watching her stare blankly at the pages for the best part of a minute, I interrupted her reverie. "Yes, Lorna. Our marriage is over. I will leave for the night. When I come back, I expect you to be gone forever. I thank you for 8 mostly happy years, but I reached my breaking point about 3 weeks ago. You can pack all your clothes and jewelry while I'm gone. Please don't be here when I return. I urge you not to try and fight the divorce or the terms. Otherwise, your parents, other family members, friends, and fellow churchgoers will get a copy of our family home movie. You know, the one with you puking, being intimate, and trash-talking me. Don't even think that little Jeremy will back you up in court. He is choosing self-preservation." Lorna wasn't looking so good. I had to strain to hear her when she muttered, "But we've already decorated the nursery." Something inside me snapped at that comment. After all, my dreams of a happy family in the near future had been dashed as well. How self-centered had she become? Maybe you should listen to your next husband when he suggests you choose your friends more wisely. Give my regards to Jenny. I certainly will. With that, I strode from the room, down the stairs, and out the front door, thinking, note to self, next wife to be wiser and smarter. Could I have just said no? When Lorna raised her desire to turn me into a kitty, no, the drive was obviously so strong in her, it would have managed to manifest itself somehow someday. Besides, half the disrespect was the asking, plus no one likes being blackmailed. Only then did I return to my game plan. There was one loose end still, the conniving wife that had started all this. There was only one place she would be, and I didn't need to have seen the partially open bedroom curtain to know where that was. Knowing the witch as I do, I knew she wouldn't be able to resist peeping in on my humiliation. That was her payoff after all the reward for months of effort. Grabbing the pickaxe handle that I had conveniently left near the front door, I started circling the house. She surprised me by not being outside the bedroom window. She was hidden in the bushes near the door, obviously waiting for me to leave so she could pick up the pieces of Lorna. I looked at her, cornered as she was. She looked at the weapon in my hand. I saw the realization of her immediate future register. She knew the video camera in her hand was history, as was probably her watch and rings. If I wanted it to appear like a mugging, I kept staring into her eyes. Even in the dark, I recognized the precise moment it dawned on her that my only option here, apart from killing her, was one way or another extracting a promise of silence from her. After briefly thinking about my alibi, I stepped forward. "Hi, my name is Dave, and I believe in the equality of the sexes, equal pay, equal respect, and equal accountability for evil acts perpetrated. I value respect, trust, and honesty. Above all else, mess with one of those, and I will cut you off. Mess with all 3, and I will cut you down. I believe that good things have happened to good people, and bad things have happened to bad. I am not an evil man. An evil man would have enjoyed what I just did. I didn't, but I didn't mention satisfaction, did I? Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.